Hello everybody. Got a little fuzzball here because he saw me getting ready for the live and he came here to be part of the whole thing. Yes, he looks so white that he actually glows, doesn't he? But yeah, he's doing really good. He's completely healed. He doesn't have a monkey butt anymore. His hair is starting to grow. Okay, you're done? You had enough attentions? He cannot see the camera and he's very confused because usually he's got the camera on him. And the camera that usually goes above the table is all the way there and he's looking at it. And he's like, what's going on? He just wants attentions. Yes. You're done? Can I put you down? Can I put you down? And here you go. A little muff. How is everybody? Hi Judy. Hi Renee. What can I say? We are in a pretty... I turned on my massager. We are in a... cat ears. Hi Silver. We're in a pretty bad time of the year because... Morning Kazimi. Hi Lydia. It's February and generally speaking, hi Beth, hi Elaine. Generally speaking, even without all the other stuff that's going on, the months in the year that are top for when it comes to depression are the second half of January and pretty much the whole month of February and sometimes even the beginning of March, depending on the weather. And it is much harder on the elderly and people with chronic conditions because that, and I'm talking about the northern hemisphere, not the southern hemisphere, because now it's summer there. But essentially, there are several things. I mean, the whole glitz and glamour of the holidays is gone. There's not a lot to look forward to because Valentine's Day is you know, some people, it's number one, it's a very commercial holiday and it makes people who are alone or in bad relationships even more depressed. And practically until spring comes, there's not much to look forward to. And as I said, for elderly people and people with chronic conditions, it's the time of the year where there's flares. I mean, because of the cold and because of all that, you hurt more. So of course that doesn't have a good influence on your mood. And this is, yeah, and that's what I'm getting to. Now on top of everything, we have the pandemic that influences us in a bad way on several levels. Number one is the lockdown. And humans are social animals, okay? So they don't feel good unless they are part of a group. And being unable of being part of a bigger group, it affects them. The problem is that a lot of being part of a group is physical contact. And that is practically impossible unless we are talking about the closest family in areas where there's not a lot of COVID infection. Some of us almost forgot what a hug feels like. Okay? A hug is always a feel good thing. And I could go on explaining all that from the point of view of the more new agey thing of energy exchange and closeness, and that's the communication that is part of the communication, interhuman communication, because us as humans, we don't communicate just with words. We communicate by body gestures, by touching, by all kinds of things. So that is something that affects us all. The other thing is the fear, because you've heard so many times and you've read so many times that the greatest enemy is always fear. And because we are talking here about something that is life-threatening, not necessarily in terms of death, even if it is in terms of death as well, especially for the elderly and for people with certain conditions. But as you know, they are still studying all the long-term effects of having had COVID. And I'm going to be very honest with you. Lately, I've been reading some studies that are really, really frightening in terms of what long time effects there can be, in terms of what this virus can affect in your body. I mean, it's already known that it passes the brain-blood barrier, and it can affect the brain. But also the new variants. And I've been saying since last year, I think since, I don't know, April, May last year, that the companies who will be the real winners will be the ones who will figure out how to do things long distance and in the virtual world. Now, to get back on us, okay? The crafters, the clayers, what can we do? Because on top of everything, and it's a little bit related to that, we are facing now a new problem, and that is the shortage of polymer clay. And but by what I understood, okay, that was not my kitties. By what I understood, the main issue with the shortage is the fact that the manufacturers themselves are limited in how much they can actually manufacture, because they are limited on how many people they can have at any given time in their manufacturing facility. And even if some have actually instated 24 hours in 3 shifts, they still don't manage to cover the demand. So that means again that unfortunately we are going to be experiencing a shortage for a while. And of course, most of these manufacturers, they are not like multi-millionaires to be able to invest in machinery that would have to be invented or adapted in order to make this whole manufacturing process require less human action. So yeah, that's a pretty bad thing for us. And To be very honest, one thing I didn't notice is the shortage of resin. Maybe because most of the resin comes from China. I mean, I'm talking mostly UV resin. And there's not a lot of shortage there. And I don't want to get into politics or anything, but what is scary to me is that the only nations in which humanity is winning against the nation is where humans. I think I explained before the difference between an independent and an interdependent society. Independent society puts the needs of the one above the needs of the many. I mean, it's not exactly that, but to put it more in layman's terms on the thing that we have now. While an interdependent society does sacrifices for the good of the whole. It's a completely different way of thinking. To give you the best example that I've always given in a long time ago when I was still holding public lectures, if you have a group of people from an independent society and a group of people from an interdependent society, and you give them a project, the people from an interdependent society, they would gather together, they would figure out which of them has the most experience in the domain the project is related to. They would say, okay, you're the leader, tell us what to do. While the people from an independent society, they will gather together and they will fight, each of them wanting to be the leader, even if they have absolutely no experience in what the project entails. And this is why, it's more for the good of the whole. An interdependent society will be more successful when it comes to threats that are against the whole, and when it comes to producing more how can I say more successful into being recognized and into being in everybody's eye. An independent society will be more successful. Yeah, exactly. I mean, pretty much that's the whole thing. And then there's the other thing that is the. Give me just a second. I have something. The other thing is that, and this has appeared since the whole communication and technology of communication has raised in the human society to new levels, is the so-called Dunner-Kruning effect. That is a type of cognitive bias. That is when people think they know more than they actually know. And to put it in a mean way is when people are too stupid to realize how stupid they are. And unfortunately, even if the internet has been such a blessing in terms of making information accessible, in terms of bringing people together, in terms of making them able to communicate with each other, on the other hand, it also allowed for misinformation to be spread, and for a lot of people think that made a lot of people think that if they read two or three things on the internet about something, now they know more than somebody with a PhD in that domain knows something. So it's a very, very complicated situation. To me personally, it looks like Mother Nature finally, and I was saying that a long time ago, years ago. It's like Mother Nature said, okay, you don't want to be good, I'll make sure that there are less of you. But no, there's not going, and everybody keeps, hope is eternal. And everybody hopes that things are getting better. And everybody who hopes that things are going to, hi Teresa, are going to get better and will be able to get back to the way the world and the life was before the pandemic, are going to be very disappointed, because there is no way we are going to go back to that. We have to adapt. Now, of course, humanity will adapt to that. Of course, there will always be people who are able to adapt to that, and see what I said earlier about companies who will be able to adapt. And if you think the way that humanity was going, it was going towards an unsustainable way of life. Not now, not in 50 years, not in 100 years, but later on, when the planet's resources wouldn't be able to support us all. So it's a very, very, very complicated situation, but not to talk about stuff that is long term and it doesn't really, we cannot do anything about. What can we do about? And I know that a lot of you are getting more depressed. I mean, don't think that I might not have been very active on Facebook, and I'm just starting to get back on track on my on my polymer clay work, but I'm still looking at what's going on, on Facebook, on other social networks, and what can I say? On one hand, it is very hard to really help somebody who is into a depression when that depression is not, I'm not talking here about, functional medical depression where the chemistry of your brain is not right and you have to take medication for that. I'm talking about causal depression, depression that's caused by certain events in your life. And it's very hard to help somebody into that, because if some causal depression can be fixed at one point, some of it, like for example, when you're depressed after you lost somebody, it's not really something you can do, but time makes the grief and the loss less, so you slowly get back to normal. The same goes with when you have an accident and you lose a limb, or you're diagnosed with some illness. Even if that doesn't get better, slowly you will adapt. And this is the same thing, only that it's going to take much longer, and it's not like things, how can I say it? It's like, okay, we're gonna be like this, we are not going to be able to get out, and so I'm going to start yeah, but that's the problem, Casimir. That's exactly the problem. Because you say, I'm going to start doing some gardening, or I'm going to do some crafting. And then I'm going to do some crafting, and I'm going to craft. I'm going to do polymer clay, and then there's no more polymer clay. So that's another thing, you know. So right now, this is the main thing that we are practically facing. It's another blow for us, polymer clayers, because it's hard to find our stuff. Now, as I said, I'm going to start some because by my knowledge, at least at this point in time, even if Premo is not very accessible, Fimo is still accessible, but the other thing I'm going to start working a little bit on, because by what I saw, they are not really out of stock, at least for now, okay, will be the new CoSclay. Because, especially because recently they came up with some new formulas. Let me get to the email I got from them. They came up with the CoSclay Deco that they made is special for mokumegane, caning, and stuff like that. And I don't have the new Deco. They say that it's going to be launched on Friday, February 26th. Through their main website, and then the international distributors will begin to have the clay deco in March. But be on the lookout for it. And if you don't know about CoSclay is a new brand that it's kind of like a polymer clay and rubber. Yes, surroundings is a big thing, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. The thing about CoSclay is that it is all the formula they had until now. It's a more flexible clay, so it's very good for sculpture, but also for some types of jewelry. So that is something to go for. What they had until now, they had a mostly sculpture, in hand sculpture made for sculpting clay. But as I said, it can be made for jewelry. But I'm really curious about their new deco. And the other thing with CoSclay is that it is better than bake and bend for making your own textures, just because it is flexible, and you can make it a little bit thinner, and you can make really good textures and long, and it gets the detail much better. Yes, it's exactly like a regular clay, the CoSclay. Hi, Skywalker. But yeah, the problem with your surroundings, as Tish said, is very, very important. You can, because if you're surrounded by everything being in a chaos and messy, you cannot create properly. It took me, after the whole Finnegan journey thing, because so he started in November. I think it was the 6th or the 7th of November when he had the first obstruction. But anyway, pretty much from the end of November until, I think it was like the beginning of the second week in January, my house was a mess. Because number one, I didn't want, you know how cats are scared of the vacuum. I didn't want to take out the vacuum and use it a lot. I used in a few spots a small handheld that's not so noisy, so I wouldn't scare Finnegan and the other ones, because the main issues that was in the second half of December when Finnegan had the surgery was that he couldn't use regular litter, and instead of that he had to use a type of paper confetti like litter, and because he couldn't use it, having 3 cats, I had to replace in all the litter boxes the regular litter with paper confetti. Now, paper confetti does not stay in place, especially when you have long-haired cats, and it's Finnegan and Connor, and you know how a paper is staticky and it will cling to you. So after the first day of using that litter, my house was covered in paper confettis. So anyway, by the time I was able to take out the vacuum, my house was a mess, and it took me about a week to bring it back to normal. But I can tell you, I couldn't do much while my house was a mess. So this is one thing that you can do when you're in lockdown. Try to organize. Thank you. Try to organize, because there's one thing that is a very good mindset for the situation at hand. You get more depressed when there's a cause for depression that you cannot control. And of course, none of us can control a pandemic. But if you start reorganizing, and if you start, categorizing and moving stuff around your house, and that to your brain, to your mind, gives you back a little bit of the feeling that you have control. So that is one of the things that is really, really good. The other thing is, especially when you do cleaning, and it's a matter of, again, the way that your brain may perceive it, is that you're washing away, you're cleaning away, you're throwing away anything that is clutter and dirt and stuff in your life, and your life becomes cleaner and purer and all that. So that's another good thing. Don't get me wrong, I know exactly how hard it can be for some of you who have chronic pain, who have chronic fatigue. I mean, I have those, I'm battling those. But the whole thing and the way that it works with me, because I'm not some kind of superhero, and I'm not trying to put myself on some kind of pedestal. One thing that I am a little bit better than others at when it comes to willpower, And when I start figuring out that I'm starting to slip, my back is not very good right now because we have rain. So if you hear any kind of bzzz in the background, that's my massager that is working on the chair in the back. But the way that, to give you a few of my ways of dealing with it, the way that I do it, because I feel how I start slipping into that dark place. Oh gosh, I don't really feel like it. I don't want to do anything, and I'm gonna just spend all day on the couch watching TV. If I feel like, for example, let's say I know I have to do dishes, And I would go in the kitchen, the sink is full, right? I would go in the kitchen to get something to eat. I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I'll do them later. Okay? Then it happens a second time. When it happens a third time, I'm like, no, I do them now. So even if I might postpone something, when I feel that postponing and that stuff is actually starting to control me, then I take control back. The same goes with pretty much everything else. And what I try to do, because as everything that I have is degenerative, and I talked about that many times before, so it will never get better. No, the 15 minutes decluttering rule doesn't work for me, because I'm not sure if I can do stuff for 15 minutes. Depends on how I feel that day. But as I was saying, because I know that I'll never get better, the only thing I can do is to make things go worse slower. Okay? And I don't make big plans. Like, okay, this week I'm going to clean the whole house. And I'm going to clean this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. Number one, I don't know which days I'm going to feel good enough to do some heavy cleaning. But I don't put too high goals, because especially unreasonable goals. Because when you don't attain a goal that you have put up there for yourself, it's going to depress you more. Set yourself reachable goals. By the same token, though, do not go too kind on yourself, as into, oh no, all I'm gonna do today is to just rearrange my silverware drawer, and tomorrow I don't feel that good, so I'm not gonna do just the washing the dishes and that's enough. No, do something that takes you out of that zone of comfort of, I don't feel like it right now. Yes, there is pain, yes, there is fatigue, but the thing is, and especially with the chronic pain, and I know it's hard, trust me, I mean, I'm going through it. It's hard to move, it's hard to do stuff, but the more you don't move, the less you'll be able to move. Okay? So try to push yourself a little bit. One thing I cannot do, honestly, I'm too afraid to do, is I used to walk. Okay? I had like a half an hour walk schedule every morning. In winter, it wouldn't be every morning, it would be more like towards afternoon, so it would be a little bit warmer, and when it was bad weather, I would either walk circles on my porch, or if it's too cold, I just walk in the house. But again, do not give up on it. Do not go like, oh, I don't feel like it today, I don't think I'm gonna do it today, I don't think I'm gonna. No, do it. Even if you don't do a full half an hour all the way, you do 5 minutes, then 5 minutes, then 5 minutes, then 5 minutes. Then when it comes again to moving and to chronic pain and to all that, we all have the tendency to do as much shortcut as possible. To give you an example, you wash the dishes, and then you put them in the rack to dry, and then you have to put them back. And anybody who wants to do a more efficient work is going to get all the plates that go in one place, stack them, and then walk and put them in the cabinet. But we are talking now, we are people who are mostly home, who have nothing else to do. But we need to move. So, it doesn't seem like much, but I promise you, it helps you. Instead of stacking the plates and then walking to put them together, take them one by one and walk them to the cabinet. It's going to be extra move, extra exercise. And the same for everything else. Do not take shortcuts. If something needs more moving, do the more moving. And all kinds of things like this. I got myself the habit of, not every time, but let's say 1 out of 5 times when I walk around the house and I go through a door, I would reach to do a stretch. I would reach for the top door frame to do a stretch. That helps your joints and your spine a lot. Little things like that. Or when you're standing up to wash the dishes, instead of standing up without moving, try to just, move your butt or your knees. It's small, but I can assure you that it adds up in terms of movement. And movement for seniors and people with chronic pain and chronic fatigue, that is perceived as an enemy. And trust me, again, the more you don't use it, the less you can use it. Hey! I'm sorry, what the heck do I have my microphone all the way there? I have some kitties that are running. Finnegan's bullying the other two, because he wants to play. And the other two, they are much older than him and they don't want to play all the time, so yeah. So going back to the whole depression thing, remember something. Nobody can help you if you're not willing to help yourself. And unfortunately, sometimes it's hard, just because, as I said, we are social animals, and a lot of time people, in order to be able to do something, they need somebody right next to them to encourage them and morally support them. And that's what I want to get to the other thing. We are a whole bunch of people, and a lot of you, I don't, because I talked before about groups. I cannot keep up with groups. And the whole thing is that most crafters are parts of groups. Well, in groups, after a while, you can figure out who you would click with. Try to make more friends online. Now, pretty much everybody else, and if you're here, that means you have the means to get online and to watch stuff online, and means you have some kind of device that allows you to video chat. In this time and age, the phone talk doesn't really cut it as much as the video chat does. So try to make yourself some friends that you would video chat with, maybe not necessarily every day, but like every other day or 3 times a week, or have morning coffee together. A lot of us, we are alone. And yes, we might have sometimes, but again, pandemic, family visiting, but we don't really have a lot of people. And the other thing is that, you say, but I video chat with my family, I video chat with my grandkids, I video chat with... you have to find somebody with whom you have a lot in common. Don't get me wrong, you love your grandchildren. You love to be in contact with them, but contact with the grandchildren will be pretty much the grandchildren telling you how their day went, or what they are pissed about, or what they did and are proud of. But you need somebody with whom you can connect on a different level. And you need to find somebody that is not exactly like you, because how can I say it? Somebody who is exactly like you and who's getting overwhelmed by stuff and who cannot do stuff, you'll end up, I promise you'll end up in a pity pot together and you won't do much. Try to find somebody who is, if you're a more cheaper person, try to find somebody who is not so much and might need a little bit of help. If you're somebody who's a little bit more in the funk dunk of depression, try to find somebody who's more cheaper. And because I promise you, it's going to be more fulfilling for both of you. For the one who needs more support and help and stuff like that, is because they are going to get it. And for the one who doesn't, the one who will be the helper and the, okay, give me your hand, let's go, it's going to put in a new perspective what they are doing, and realizing, and sometimes even finding ways and issues that they didn't address before. So it's a win-win situation. It's not like, oh, but somebody who's, it's not a matter of being better or not. Some of us have more coping than others. It's just the way we are. It doesn't make you a worse person if you need a shoulder to cry on, and it doesn't make you a much better person if you don't. We are all in this together, in this life together. And as much as it is true that we are all born alone and we all die alone, doesn't mean that we have to be for the rest of the life, the journey in between, alone. So, and I promise you, even if you're somebody who's more, you still need just the thought that there is somebody who waits for your call. Okay, not every day, but every Monday or every Thursday, or that's going to make you feel needed. And people also need to feel needed. And remember, I had several lives before in which I talked about that what keeps somebody going is a purpose, and the purpose is creating or nurturing. Anything that you do can be put in one of these two. And feeling needed is something that is very good for the soul. So try to find, maybe not just one, you can form a small group. Don't, it's the thing, with the religion and politics, they are dividing. Nobody tells you that you have to connect with somebody who's got different religious or political views than you, if you're not an accepting person. If you're an accepting person, try to find somebody who's got different views, because you might learn something. It all depends. It's the same thing. But that's the main thing, because this is how I started this live about the whole depression thing that the pandemic brings us into. And what can we do about it? And yeah, we cannot hug anymore, we cannot gather anymore, we cannot have workshops like we used to do. But on the other hand, Polymer Clay community was very much shifting towards the virtual even before the pandemic happened. There were a lot of virtual workshops. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Uh, but we were all kind of moving towards that. And the thing is that if you stop and think, polymer clay makers, creators, yes, there are some new, some young ones, but there are very few young ones who, and when I say young ones, I'm talking about like under 25, who are raising it to a form of art. They are mostly into sculpting all kinds of characters from games or from movies or stuff. But most of the big names in the polymer clay community are elderly. They are definitely past 55. And as you grow older, you're less and less inclined to travel and spend a lot of time in unknown surroundings, and even with meeting other people like you. So this is why slowly the whole workshop and stuff and teaching thing was moving more towards not in person, okay, more towards the virtual. So what this pandemic did, it just brought us there faster. But that doesn't mean that we cannot connect. And even if we are going to end up as a society that's mostly living in individual or family bubbles, remember it's redefine, adapt, overcome. So you need to change. You need to, and for most of us, there is not a lot of change. And I can tell you because, yeah, I do miss. I started missing my weekly outings with my best friend when we would go shopping, and then, yeah, absolutely. And then we would have lunch together. Yeah, I miss that. But before that, since I started to get more disabled, I was living pretty much like this. It didn't affect me that much. Yeah, I would go and do grocery shopping in person mostly, and now I do mostly pick up. But it's not that big of a change. And those little, face-to-face meetings you had with some friends when you would be visiting from time to time, switch them to the virtual, but have them. That's the most important thing. Even if you have, at one point, yeah, you call your friend and you both have something to do, you're trying to work on something, it doesn't matter, just put the phone there or the laptop, and while each of you work on whatever you're doing and just talk from time to time, that's fine. It's exactly like if you were together in a room, each of you working on something. And just because you know that your friend is 500 miles away, instead of being in the next house, it really doesn't matter, because even if they were in the next house, you still couldn't be talking face to face. So the whole idea is try to do something every day. I have my thing with 2 things a day. If I do 2 things a day, I'm good. But I'm tricky. I mean, it's actually 4 things a day because it's 2 things around the house and 2 things about, crafting or something. And the second thing is find a buddy or more than one is very, very important. And again, redefine. Some people say improvise, adapt, and overcome. I mean, you can do it. The only person who stands in the way of you being able to achieve something is yourself. Always keep that in mind. And I'm not saying that my methods are the best, but try to apply that method I told you about. That if you tell yourself for a 3rd time, I don't feel like doing that, get up and do it. Because at that point, it controls you, you are not controlling it. So just get like, who the heck are you to have this power over me? And because we must not go down without a fight, right? That's the main thing. And trust me, I'm getting all kinds of issues here because I am overdue for, soon it's gonna be a year, for the shots I had to have in my spine. I also have to go fix, I lost a veneer on my upper bridge, and that's why I'm talking with my mouth like that, because it's right here. I cannot smile much. But yeah, but see, Renee, be very careful, because don't have in those 2 things I need to do, those 2 things must not be something that is rewarding or relaxing or stuff. You can do, talking about that, you can do another thing. You can actually institute a system of rewards for yourself. Like, oh, I want to binge watch this series, but I also have to do this. Okay, I can watch 3 episodes of this series only if I sweep the floor in the kitchen and do the dishes. So you can try that too. There are all kinds of methods, and one of them is going to be good for you, but it's going to be good for you only if you do it. Because if you don't do it, I had, my journeys in this world, including, recovering from an illness, losing weight, putting weight on, because I had that problem too, and all that. I had a lot of people who are like, oh, I tried it, but it didn't work for me. And for 99.9% of the people who said, I tried it, but it didn't work for me, they tried it once, and then they gave up. So things don't work if you don't do them. This is the whole thing. And I don't see this as politics, and I don't see this as anything, but it's kind of like that thing, oh, social distancing and masks don't work. Well, they don't work if you don't do them properly, because we have so many examples in this world. But I don't want to start a whole polemic and all that. What I'm trying to say, do it, because nobody else can do it for you. And if you don't take care of yourself, you'll get to the point that you'll have a lot of people trying to help you and suggesting stuff and advising you and morally supporting you. But if you don't do it, honestly, they are going to drop you because you're disappointing them. And why would they hygiene? Why would they waste their time for nothing? You know, I don't know, I'm trying here both the whip and the candy because I am worried because I read some things, as I said, on Facebook and other social media, and I do realize that some of my subscribers and followers and stuff are not in a good spot right now. And I decided to talk about this whole thing today because of that. But the most important thing in everything, yes, look for support, look for that, but the most important thing in everything is you need to do it. You know, so that is what I wanted to tell you. And I know I didn't most of the time I touch more on the issues of crafting than I did today, but that was the main thing I wanted to talk about today. And yeah, tomorrow we'll do the angel wings heart. I hope you liked the last. And remember, I did make these, and I said in the tutorial that I made them. Some of you might like them to be this big, but I usually make them only about half this size. The issue is that I wanted for you to be able to see what I'm doing, because it's a little bit, you need to see how to do that. But again, try on that. I might come and make one or two other tutorials with different colors and different things, like I said, that you can try. But and also the other thing that I started thinking about, as I said, because we are having a shortage of polymer clay, I think I might have to do a few tutorials with using scrap clay, because even if you don't have new clay, you might still have scrap clay that can be used to make something. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go lay down now because, as I said, it's windy and I need to do several things around the house before Monday, because here the cold snap comes Monday and it looks like it's going to be the whole week. And there are some things like laundry that I cannot do if it's below freezing, because the water pipes might freeze. My laundry room is an addition to the house and it's on stilts, and the water pipes that go to the washer, even if they are insulated, if we get like 11 degrees at night, the water's gonna freeze, the water pipe is gonna freeze. So I need to do some things that have to be done before the cold snap. So I will see you all tomorrow at 12:30, and we are going to make angel wings hearts, 2 kinds of them. Okay, thank you so much. Have a great weekend, and see you all tomorrow. And remember, get up and do stuff. Bye.